Okay, so I saw something on Instagram. I don't know if it was a week ago or a day ago. You posted a video, and I want to go deeper into this because this is a funny example, but it's true in like in a lot of different situations. But the reel was basically you're not allowed to have sex till you've made at least $100,000 this month. So let's talk about that, and then I want to liken it to a lot of other things. But that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was blowing up.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see how many people watched it.
I posted that reel already like 2-3 times.
Okay.
Just because I like people.
It's a good one.
Well, I just like people coming in and be like, whatever comments are. Like, I love it. I'll laugh at some comments. But
yeah, 520,000 views so far.
I said, you're not allowed to go on a dinner date if you're not making $10,000 a month. Because this new thing is always like, well, these ladies, they want to, especially like, oh, these ladies, they're always saying they want to go to these fancy dinners or whatever the case is. I said, okay, so just go make more money. But I said, if dinners are expensive right now and it's costing you $500 to go out for dinner, $200 in Miami, you're not getting a dinner under $500, right? You're getting rents there. So I said, okay, how can you make sense of spending 10% of your wealth, and you want to be a business person, you're spending 10% of your wealth on one dinner date? Just think of it. I'm like, most wealthy people and rich people are going to think when they're spending 20% of their wealth, it has to be on something significant, right? I said, in business, you can't just flick the switch on and flick the switch off. I said, so number one, I said, start getting disciplined. I said, start having some goals for yourself. I said, maybe at $10,000, you can afford with no stress to go on the dinner date. Cause I'm like, you want to be loose. You don't want to be thinking about, and it's just an Instagram reel. I can't do a lot of talking on Instagram reel. My guys chop it up to get a little bit more hate. They're chopping it up to make it a little bit more intense. But and then I said about the sex thingy, I said, okay, you're not allowed to have sex until you're making $100,000 a month, right? And I'm talking to salespeople that are in the vehicle, by the way. Like, people have to understand that message is to salespeople that are in a vehicle that can do it. Maybe if somebody's working a job, they're not in a vehicle. Yeah. It is completely different.
That's not your audience.
Right. No. I'm talking to people that are looking at me like, how do I become rich in sales? Right. So I'm like, okay, you're in a vehicle that make $100,000 a month. I said, okay, let's dissect sex for a second. Let's dissect it. Well, if you're a male, right, and you're not learning from Russell and Daniel how to communicate with other individuals, it might take long, meaning you have to think about where you're going tonight. And then you got to go buy some clothes. And then you got to go pick the club and go to the Uber and then, go out and spend money on drinks. And then, figure out which girl you're going to try to pick up and then get her phone number. And then maybe you don't land the first Friday and Saturday night and then you go back to the same club. So now you're 2 weeks in. You go back to the same club and then you do the whole thing again, get somebody's number. And then, okay, finally you land Maria's number and now you're out with Maria on a date and you guys don't have sex the first date. So now you're 4 weeks in and you're on the second date. And now maybe you have sex on the first month. And now you're a month in just for this process where you could be learning, studying, growing, building a business or whatever the case is. You're a month in and then it's good. And then, and then you stay doing it. And I said, for the young people, I said, I think it's so much easier to focus building because if it gets good and then now you're doing it every day. And I said the most deadly time as an entrepreneur is your 6 to 9 o'clock at nighttime. I said, that's where entrepreneurs are built like that. That's that bleed time. That's not what's shown in the reel. I said, entrepreneurs are built from 6 to 11 o'clock and on the weekends. That's where we're built. Like, we're all in part-timers until it's full time. Right. So I said, don't be like a fake full-timer, be an all-in part-timer. So even if you don't have the ability, if you're working a 9 to 5, it's okay. You could beat the people that say they're entrepreneurs, but they're working 1 hour a day, but they got 12 hours on their head. I said they're fake full-timers. I said our business is built on the weekend. It's built on those gaps if we're all in, right? So I was just showing them, I'm like, you will beat majority of people if you're really, an all-in part-timer inside of business and entrepreneurship. You could beat a lot of fake full-timers inside of business, especially in the online space, right? Because it's online. Now you have the ability, I don't have to work today or whatever the case is. So I was just teaching them how to maximize time on that.
100%. I think, again, obviously it's a funny example. It grabs clicks and headlines and stuff like that. But the reality is true in anything. Like when I was wrestling, that was my big thing. It's just like everyone else at nights was goofing off, weekends doing things, holidays, they were in like, for me to become who I wanted to become in wrestling, I was working out every night. I had to do those things to be able to become a different level than everybody else, right? I think that's true in any area. If you're trying to be a good salesperson, a good marketer, a good, like whatever you're trying to do, it's like you've got to give up something in the interim while you're mastering the skill set. Otherwise, it's going to take you way too long to ever actually master the skill set, you know?
Correct. Yeah. And I'm talking to young folks and I'm saying, guys, we have such an advantage. Our parents wish that they had social media and Instagram. Like, for example, going back when I was with Andy last month, Elliot, I was like, dude, because we were planning out some of these events. I said, okay, we got to think bigger. He's like, okay. I'm like, think of it. If Tracy and Zig Ziglar and all these guys, if they packed out events with no social media, we suck. I said, we suck. We should easily be doing 100,000 people in a stadium. We should fill up 60 to 70,000 people. If they did it without social media, I said, who are we comparing ourselves to? Sometimes we just, I said, because I don't think entrepreneurs, I know people say comparison is the thief of all joy, but I disagree. I think if you're a winner and if you grew up, somebody like yourself, and you're in sports, I grew up in sports playing soccer, I think comparison is a motivator inside of business. I believe that when you compare yourself to the right people, if it demotivates you, I don't think you should be in business. This is the true message. I think if you compare yourself to the right people, you have a benchmark and you could say as a team, okay, we suck. How do we have to get better here, right? I think comparison for the right people, it's almost like a motivator. So I forget about the subject. But yes, I was saying just like in terms of maximizing time, I don't think when I was saying that message, I don't believe that giving up some negative things is ever a sacrifice inside of business. I think when people say you got to give up going to the clubs or drinking or whatever the case is, I'm like, we have to pause for a second and just think some of those things that we think is a sacrifice is already a negative. So it's not like, oh, I'm sacrifice going out on the weekends and drinking. I'm like, well, that's already bad. Like, that's already a bad thing to do. You mean you just have a little bit more love for your life and your business. So you have a little bit more self-love. That's not sacrifice. The true sacrifice as an entrepreneur, as a salesperson, is sometimes working in the office at 12 o'clock, maybe when it's somebody's birthday, sometimes missing somebody's wedding because Daniel has to be at this event or whatever. That's the hard sacrifices inside of life. So you have to make this divine line where it's like, okay, what are already negative things that I think is a sacrifice? Because I can't be in this guilty place of me sacrificing alcohol when it's already negative. Yeah. That just means you love your business. The hard things are, and you have to identify it, giving up maybe a family function or being in the office when a friend has a baby shower, whatever the case is. Those are the true sacrifices inside of business.
Yeah, for sure.